procedures that our fraud investigators use. They use standard state-approved procedures on all welfare fraud investigations. They make home visits, they identify themselves as to who they are and why they are there, they ask for permission to enter the home, and they only enter if granted permission. Once in a home, the investigators ask a series of questions to verify information provided by the recipient in the case. They match the answers against what is in the file. They ask direct questions about household composition or who lives in the home, and related questions if a disability is involved to verify the accuracy of what's listed in the case. They also ask for proof of who's living in the home by having a household member show them belongings of the people living in the home. And this is to verify who's receiving services and if they're living where they say they're living. So one of the procedures involved if there's an IHSS assessment of hourly tasks needed, then the investigators will verify those tasks according to their disability. For example, if the recipient states they cannot cook or clean or dress unassisted, those are the types of things that the investigators are verifying. They are referring to the case notes and the social worker's hourly task guideline assessment. They are verifying information and they are not making a medical assessment. Also, there was concern for the protection of the recipient during investigations. One of the things that concerned me is that all of our staff are charged with trying to be as supportive and as compassionate as possible. Our staff provide adult protective services, and we are all trained, as well the social workers as well as the investigators, in how to recognize and deal with adult abuse and neglect. It is the role of the Community Services Agency to support and protect all elders, dependent adults, and children when it comes to risk assessment, protection, and safety of these vulnerable populations. It is our policy to ensure that there is no coercion, no threatening behavior, and the investigators act with the utmost professionalism and respect for all involved. One of the other issues that came up was, just like your bank, your insurance company, or any retail establishment would seek ways to prevent fraud and theft, so the government has a responsibility to protect taxpayer money so that only the truly needy can be served. The purpose of the fraud investigations is to investigate cases where there is a conflicting information or suspicion that fraud might be occurring. Also, if there is a misunderstanding or confusion that caused the conflicting information, the staff handle this by sorting out the problem. However, if this is a felony and it is referred to the district attorney's office. In terms of discriminating or targeting particular groups within our community, the county and the CSA staff are governed by all federal and state laws prohibiting discrimination in any government program. And we have regular training that is ongoing for all of our staff in civil rights. The program hours are being touched by this. Recipient hours are not being handled or touched in terms of the program going away. The fear out there that somehow the program is going to be impacted or go away is not something that we are dealing with. The recipient hours are based totally on the need for services as assessed by the social worker through the hourly task guideline. Whether the hours increase or decrease is determined by a trained social worker. Recipients always have the right to appeal any decision to administrative law judge through the hearing process if they do not agree. In terms of complaints, there have been questions about how do you file complaints. Complaints against specific welfare fraud investigators can be filed on a form that is used in the program. It will remain in place in this county for many years to come to serve those who truly need the services. The IHSS program is a valued safety net program to the community we serve, and we are proud to provide those services. At this point, I'd like to turn it back to Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Ms. Staney. I sincerely appreciate it. The chart that is on the screen now shows a comparison of the total cost of the IHSS program from 2004-5 fiscal year projected through 2012-13. That's the yellow line on the left side of the screen, ranges between 20 to 80 million, reflects the cost of the IHSS program. And so you can see you have lines that are divergent, going in different directions, meaning greater demand is simply wrong. Arguing that point, which hasn't been right. I wish it would, but it doesn't. The IHSS program does cost general fund resources. To think the growth in IHSS cost doesn't take away from other county programs is also wrong. As a community, we need to support the program for those persons with a true need. We also need to identify and, as appropriate, prosecute those persons who are illegally receiving benefits. So those with the need in all of our support programs throughout Stanislaus County will have access to these critical programs. Thank you very much. This does conclude the report.
Okay, that concludes staff reports. Are there any questions from the board of staff? Okay, I have here a number of requests to speak. We're going to honor that. It's our policy to take a short break at 10:30 for.
Okay, and last?
Vaughn, Vaughn.
Okay, and you live in Modesto?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your age?
My age? 36.
36. Are you a home care provider?
Yes.
Thank you. This is Doug Moore.
Good morning, Chairman, and fellow board members, and executive officer. My name is Doug Moore, and I'm the executive director of the United Domestic Workers Home Care Providers Union, and I'm here to set the record straight. For weeks, you've heard the heartbreaking stories of elderly and disabled citizens of Stanislaus County who have been harassed, intimidated, and threatened by the county's Special Investigations Unit. You continue to ignore that testimony and deny these abuses. You think it's okay for agents in bulletproof vests to raid the homes of Alzheimer's patients and other elderly and disabled people. You think it's okay for your agents to threaten people with jail time unless they agree to reduce their IHSS hours. You also think it's okay to start these so-called investigations when the state protocols required for IHSS anti-fraud campaigns have not yet been issued. And we're here today to tell you that that is not okay. It is not okay at all. Your tactics are bringing dishonor and disgrace to Stanislaus County. You are threatening thousands of your most vulnerable citizens are treating them like common criminals. And they are not going to stand silent and let you get away with it. And neither are we. We also want to set the record straight on your proposal to cut the wages of the 4,500 county home care providers back to minimum wage. You know very well that there is a current court order that prevents the county from doing this unilaterally. Fresno County tried the same thing, but was stopped by the courts. Yet you continue to push for this wage cut while ignoring its negative consequences. Cutting providers' wages will only add to the county's already tragic 20% poverty rate and will force providers to other county services such as food stamps. Cutting wages will result in some providers having to leave the program, forcing their clients to move to far more expensive nursing homes or just simply go without care. Cutting wages will also have a negative impact on county businesses that providers use, your transportation, your local grocery stores. Our providers shop locally in Stanislaus County. That's where they spend their dollars. Now, you have criticized our union, for trying to bargain in public on these issues. But let me remind you, it was the county in its proposed budget that first publicly raised the issue. You opened that door, and we had every right to respond. We also want to point out the hypocrisy of this board for raising your own salaries by nearly 4% during what you claim is an economic crisis for the county, and doing it without public comment or debate. So each of you now earns in excess of $75,000 a year for what is in essence a part-time job. It appears you have learned nothing from the recent events that have happened in the city of Vail. Finally, your Director of Community Services, Christine Appelier, recently told a reporter that she questions how many of the 4,500 IHSS home care providers in Stanislaus County are represented by UDW. Ms. Applegate, we're here. Here's your answer. We represent them all. Thank you.
This is a public meeting.
Here we go.
And as chair of this meeting, I can ask everyone in the room to leave except for the media. So I'm going to ask you to conduct yourself in a dignified manner. Jesse Willett, and following Jesse will be James Clark.
Jesse Willett, my sister comes in and takes care of me. We're going to cut her wages $8. We're going to go on vacation. That's not right. She can't live off of it. Without her, I ain't got nobody to help her. And we got out of the hospital for surgery. And she got me this letter from the people that we cut her down $8, I guess. No, it would not be that. Thank you.
Thank you. James Clark. Following James Clark will be Joy Chapman.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors.
Right.
My name is James Clark. I'm also a provider. I have 4 clients, and I cannot make it on $8 an hour with my 4 clients to support my family. And not only that, I'm also a volunteer firefighter. So basically, I have a total of 5 jobs. I can't make it on it. It is absolutely ridiculous that we all, you go in there and, the fraud investigations terrorize our clients. That's not right. Thank you.
Thank you. Joy Chatfield, and following Joy will be Tammy Hall.
Well, this has been an eye-opener this morning with a lot of information. Still have a concern about the investigative unit. And beings, we've been up here talking to you the last several weeks about that. I was wondering, has anyone up there gone out to the homes of these recipients to talk with them themselves and get the story straight from them as to how they were treated and how they were, when the investigative team did come to their home? I don't know if you did. It would have been nice. I think out of 40 plus complaints that unless you all agree with the way that they conduct their business, that maybe we should have gone out and checked it out a little bit at least. This is really a hard job for the providers. Makes them feel like criminals sometimes, that even though they've been fingerprinted and gone through the process that we have to go through in order to be providers to start with, and that's okay. I wouldn't want somebody coming into my home that shouldn't be there either. But we're talking about saving money. So how many of these recipients do you think will have to go into a nursing home or a facility somewhere, and it's going to cost what's the going rate now, $5,000 a month for one of the facilities to put these people in? So if they take them out of their home and put them there, how much money is going to be saved? I don't know. One provider, and everybody that's here earns $5,000 a month through the in-home supportive service, even if they work their maximum hours. So I hope maybe that will give you some idea about how much this program could be saved if something comes up and have to put a lot of these in the nursing home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Captain Hall. Following Tammy Hall will be Ed Huddleston. Tammy here? Danny Garcia.
Ed Huddleston. Good morning. Well, I'm here to speak on maybe behalf of some of the veterans. I don't know how many of you guys are vets. I'm also a disabled vet. I'm a provider and also a chapter chair of the county. Merced. I'm here in support of Stanislaus, my members here. I don't know if any of you guys know any veterans. This young man who the dog was named after, he did his part. He didn't make it back home. But it's those who have made it home, who have legs missing, parts missing, different things that have happened to them. Chemical ward, I'm a Vietnam era vet. And a lot of the vets do need this program. I've heard a lot of things saying about the relatives. Well, a lot of them have their wives, their mothers, their fathers. That's all they have to help them with their problems from serving the country. So I just wish you would think about the vets, because for us, a lot of you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. We've gone there, we fought for our country, and we would like the respect of being able to live the way we'd like to.
Thank you. Danny Garcia. Following Danny will be Tom Edding.
I received this in the mail from our union. So what I'm here to ask you, are you calling our union a liar? What they're saying, what they're telling us, what they're calling us about, what they're writing us about. Are you calling our union a liar? Because you're saying that misrepresentation, that information that we're having, all the information we get is from our union. Are you calling our union a liar? That's my first question. Yes or no?
I ain't gonna tell you.
Yes or no? Because I heard that it is misrepresentation that we're getting. We're getting wrong information. I don't believe so. Okay? I've been a resident of Modesto since 1996. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of good, and I've seen a lot of bad. We didn't make this mess. We're not the ones that sit down and do the budget or whatever. You guys are. The city council, the supervisor, all our politicians. But every time our politicians sit down, only thing they think of is about how we can cut. And it never cut in your wages, and never a cut in anything but what the needy needs. And I'm sick and tired of coming here and talking about food stamps, medical, welfare, or whatever, okay? Because start talking about cutting your $75,000 wage. That's the first thing you can talk about. Now, you do have, Mr. Chairman, the power to clear the hall and tell us to leave. But we also have the power, and our union also has the power, as registered voters, to recall on every single one of you. Okay? And so you talk about respect. That's not respect when you go over there and threaten us about leaving. Now,
That gave me chills.
you didn't answer my question. Are you calling our union a liar for the misinformation?
He ain't gonna answer
I
the
think
question.
that the county has put the facts out there.
I can't hear you. You have to speak up, sir. I'm hard of hearing.
The county staff has outlined the facts of this issue, and there will be an opportunity after the public testimony for them to additionally outline the facts of the issue. If the facts that are being distributed to
Facts
people...
are that you want,
Sir,
you want to raise.
we're not going to engage in a dialogue. Okay, you asked me a question.
Okay, go ahead.
If the facts on your card, which I haven't seen,
I'm more than happy to answer.
you're just want to read it. If the facts on your card are different than the facts that the staff have said, then they're not the truth.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the facts are that you want to give everybody in this investigative unit another raise for 3.75. But when we come, and our union comes, and asks you guys to give us some holiday pay, maybe, we can't even get that. Or give us a sick day, we can't even get that. We don't have the benefits of a lot of unions they have today.
We only make $9.38 as you claim today. And now you want to cut us back down to $8 an hour. I want you and everybody in this program, from the top to the bottom, to live on $8 an hour. A lot of these people can't even pay their rent on $8 an hour. They have to take a second job. I got 2-3 jobs myself. Okay, because I can't even live on what I make. Then why are you pushing us to even take lower wage? But you want to give them a raise to come intimidate us, harass us. Are you saying you're saying this, that lady here is saying that is not happening? You know, they can't allow to come in unless they're, asked. They say, yes, you can come in. Well, what happens if they tell them, no? That's a question to you. What happens if people tell them, the provider or the client says, no, you can't enter?
Mr. Garcia, will you address your comments to me, please? And after all the comments have been made.
Pardon me?
After all the comments have been made, staff will come through and answer the questions we're asked. But we're not going to do it one at a time. So if you'll just make your general comments, and then she'll...
No, sir, because see, I only got 5 minutes, so we don't need to argue back and forth.
And your 5 minutes are up, so I'm going to ask you to sit down, please.
Pardon me?
Your 5 minutes are up. Can you sit down, please?
I'm not finished.
Well, you're going to need to sit down.
Oh, sit down.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Tom Eddings. I believe it's Tom Eddings. I might have it wrong. I'm sorry if I did. Following Tom will be Pam Cooper.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, I want to ask a few comments. As far as the project goes for in-home support services, I have it on video and audio how they treat the recipients. It's no one can wrong. They bust in the house and go in. They think they're going to get something out of it. They gave a lady 2 doors down from where we used to live a heart attack. She died because they were looking for that door. Number 2 is you want to talk about on fraud. I'll show you where fraud is. Everybody knows this is going on. I've brought in tons of boxes of fraud from skilled nursing homes. They're defrauding the California government, Medi-Cal, by millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Why? Because nobody's investigating them. There is, just in Stanislaus County, there's 15 that are, they don't even have a registered nurse giving out medication. LVNs. I'm an LVN. I give out medication. I care about what that she died. Because I have license to do it. But here's the whole thing. Okay? I didn't need all, they gave me, kind of gave me like 67 hours a month. I didn't care. I didn't care if I had 1 hour. Because I had 23 years of beautiful marriage. But here's the whole thing behind it. If you're going to give a nursing home the privilege of making up their own rules, because long-term visits 30 days plus. According to the state, it's 90 days plus. Okay, they take all the money. They give each patient $15 a month. They have to supply their own table, supply their own food. Okay, don't get 1 meal a day. But yet the nursing home will make $10 a month per patient. I've got that in proof. Okay, I've been researching for over 2 years now. And I can prove that the project in this county is wrong. I can prove it. Okay? The fraud unit is not trained to talk to people. They're trained to investigate and they're trained to interrogate. Interrogation means peace officer went after criminal. Want no gets back. Okay? Are you going to push these people? They're not good enough health to realize what the hell's going on, but they're life on it. You got your own life, you want to be treated. Look what you've done with it. Patiently, quietly. Okay? So we can't even have much money. Well, I tell you one thing, skilled nursing sure has money. Run by corporations, millions of dollars. Okay? The one here in Riverbank. It's called the Riverbank Nursing Home. You walk in there, you smell urine, you smell species. And you know what? You know what the head nurse is going to do? My wife couldn't go home because white mold disease was there. She had possible white mold disease. She died from it. You know what they said? Oh, we don't want that. Well, what the hell's wrong with it? It's like it's 80s. There's no quarantine. Doing the same contract. They get all the money. They get all of her earnings. They get everything we got. And I said, I will die in hell if you guys get any one dime. Why? Because my mom died there too. She laid there for 3 days with a damn shitty diaper. No food. She couldn't feed herself. We told them that when we made clear. She cannot feed herself. We got to feed her. Well, we don't have time for that. When you get paid for it, now you show me any nursing home, skilled nursing home, in the state of California, even in Stanislaus County, that earns their money. They don't. And you know what? For the save money, they spend their money. It's your money that's to spend. You keep your relative there. Now, would you rather have your relative die in respect, integrity, and independence of their own home, under the care of a physician and hospice and a visiting nurse, and have an honest to decent person giving them care that cares about them? Or things where the nursing home say, you have to over that corner and die, I don't care, because that's what you're going to do. That is exactly what's going on. And you know what? People are tired of dying. People are tired of starving. Because people are taking advantage of it. This county is taking advantage of all of the in-home support services employees. They're taking advantage of it. They're treating them like criminals. I've got a pretty background check. I mean, I was in the service. I passed the flying colors. I was fortunate. Some people aren't. But whenever they say they call ahead to make a fun of come in, no, they don't. They walk right through the front door. Okay, I've seen it. Like I got it on one daisy tape. I've got guys who blow your mind out on fraud. Embezzling money in California. From the local taxpayers. Okay? I've got it.
Tom, we've got to 5 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Okay. You raised some good points. And Ms. Applegate, if you would, well, in your closing comments, if you could address the areas of fraud investigation that the county is responsible for, as it relates to maybe some of these other areas, and then the areas that the state is responsible for. Okay? Thank you, Tom. Pam Cooper, and following Pam will be Tamara Lukeman.
Good afternoon. I'm just here today my name is Pam Cooper, and I'd just like to read the mission statement and a couple values that we have. Stanislaus County serves the public interest by promoting...
Mr. Chairman, other board members. You know, after I heard the report that was given by Ms. Applegate, I wish you could sit and listen to some of the calls we get, or some of the people that come in and tell their side of the story, as opposed to the written law that we saw on the board. You know, stop signs and red lights at the corners tell people to stop. People still cruise right through them. And that's basically what's going on with the fraud department. They may have the rules, and of course, a couple of you, Vito and Jim, supervisors went out with the groups, and of course, they were on their best behaviors. But I invite you to come down, and we'll give you names and addresses, and you can talk to these individuals that have been wronged. As a matter of fact, Supervisor DeMartini had the opportunity to sit across from a member who was telling her story, 84-year-old, where the fraud investigators came in her home. And just like the fraud investigators acted, so did Supervisor DeMartini. Interrupted her and told her, oh, you're just making this up and blowing this out of proportion. Cut her off right in the middle of it. We were on the radio show, Morning Mayor. Is that the name of that show? Yeah, he remembers. So he acted just like the accusations that have been made by many members concerning how this fraud unit is receiving their job. And we invite you to speak to some of these members, as opposed to just looking at one side of the coin, as one of the members said. Let's look at the other side of the coin. I wanted to ask a question. We've seen the video or the presentation about what's going on with the funds. I must have missed the part when I was taking notes about how much money is being saved by the fraud unit to this area. And the question I have is, what are you going to do with that money? Are you going to put the money back in the program? I believe good businessmen, that's what they do. They spend some money on to make the program run, but they also spend money put back in the program. So if you're saving these thousands of dollars on these so-called fraud, what are you doing with that money? Is it going back in the program? I think it would behoove you to put it back in the program. Put it back so we can have more individuals in a health care plan. You know, I was at a meeting where Supervisor Monteith was at the meeting, and a member asked me a question as to how many county workers, counting the providers in the IHSS program in our union, as county workers. How many do we have compared to the other county workers here? And I didn't know the answer, and he told me we have 800 more than the standard, the other county workers. However, our county workers or the providers don't have sick leave, vacation time, pension plans, comp time, retirement. But yet the wages are being considered to be lower to $8 an hour. What are you going to do with the money that's being saved? What are you going to do with it? Mr. Chairman?
You're asking that question now. I'm going to ask our CEO, Mr. Robinson, in his closing remarks to address that. Thank you. We're now from Felipe Perez.
Two children that are disabled, and I come here again today to represent them.
Tengo uno que tiene autismo
I have one who is autistic,
y la niña de 4 años necesita un aparato para respirar, siquiera para respirar.
and a daughter that's 4 years old that needs a breathing apparatus machine to live.
Y otro aparato para comer porque no come.
And an apparatus also to eat because she cannot eat by herself.
Ustedes como padres se imaginan la atención que yo llevo.
You all, like parents, should imagine the compassion that I have.
Siquiera se le desconecta la máquina y no respira, se muere.
If somehow, accidentally, the breathing machine was to disconnect, my daughter would die.
Porque el corazón por ellos.
Have a heart for my kids.
Ellos tienen los mismos derechos que cualquier ser humano.
They have the same rights as any other kids.
Solo que ellos necesitan de alguien para poder subsistir.
The only difference is that they need the assistance of someone else to live.
Y este programa de Home Support Service les provee las necesidades, la ayuda necesaria para subsistir.
And this IHSS program gives my children the ability to live.
No entiendo por qué siempre está bajo la mira de recortes.
I don't understand why this program is always under the microscope for cuts.
Si desaparece este programa o lo recortan, se quedan ellos con más limitaciones de las que ya tienen.
By cutting the program or possibly maybe eliminating the program, you are eliminating my children's rights to live.
No me parece justo que ustedes como autoridades que son, y una de sus,
I don't Otra vez, por favor.
No me parece justo que ustedes como autoridades, eso,
That I would see the justice from people with authority like yourselves,
y una de sus principales prioridades debería de ser velar por los más indefensos y los más necesitados.
that one of your main obligations should be towards those that are defenseless.
Les pido de la manera más cordial que tengan misericordia con los incapacitados.
I beg of you with my sincerest wishes that you have some compassion.
Porque si nosotros como familiares, en mi caso como madre, no estoy con ellos, ¿quién nos va a cuidar?
For if not for me, and for the love for my kids, who would care for them the manner that I care for them?
Si este programa permanece, cuando menos haya alguien que les pueda brindar la ayuda para vivir.
At least with this program, there is a way for her as a mother to help her kids at home to live.
Gracias por esta oportunidad que me da de brindarles mis sentimientos.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to express my feelings.
Thank you.
7 to 9-year-old level. I've been sitting here, excuse me once again. I've been sitting here listening to all the numbers that you have brought before us. We already know how much we are costing the county. We already know and agree that we need to weed out the fraud in the IHSS program. What we don't know is how the county can afford to allow our politicians to not only get paid such a high salary, but also are free to dip their hands in the cookie jar and give themselves raises just because they can. Just recently, you voted yourselves a raise of 3.75%, whether you needed it or not. And you're thinking about reducing our wage from $9.38 an hour to $8 an hour. As I said in one of my speeches to you recently, some of us have not had the opportunity to build a financial future for ourselves, and some of us haven't been so lucky to have inherited any wealth from our parents. We have to go out and earn our own money the hard way. I think this is what the old saying means, taking from the poor and giving to the rich. When we become parents, brothers, sisters, uncles, or aunts of a disabled child, we automatically become slaves. A slave to this person until the day we die. All of the love that we have for that person sometimes is not enough. We need help. Help financing, help in caring for that person at times. For we are all only human and we can only do so much. So no matter what your numbers are today, no matter what a good job the fraud unit is doing, bottom line is we still are in the same position today as we were yesterday and the day before. The issue here today should not be how many times the fraud unit wins in court or how many times the consumer wins. It's how they're coming to this point in the first place, by terrorizing our people. When we were all mandated to appear at an orientation, they had us sign a paper saying that we agreed that the fraud unit could come into our homes to evaluate and observe and if we were taken care of, and if the consumer needed all of the care that we were giving them. There was nowhere in that document any mention of searching our homes and putting cameras around to try to catch us of some illegal doings. My grandparents came from Germany, and the stories that I've heard from the Hitler era seem more real to me now than then. Gestapo comes to mind. How sad is that in these days and times? I would like to know how we can afford to pay our CEO $250,000 a year and pay all of you together almost $500,000 a year. Where does all that money come from? Thank you.
Thank you. Following Cheryl, that will be Ladine Burnett.
Tell them your name. What is your name? Shaylin Beck.
Right.
Good morning.
What would you like to say? What do you want to tell them? What do you want to tell them?
Oh, no.
Just tell them from right here. Tell them right here.
Stop. Me.
Hi.
Stop. Hurts me.
There you go.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Davidson, and once again, I stand before you praying that you would comprehend the economical impact that lowering the IHS provider wages to $8 an hour would have on our county and our businesses. Statistically, number one, this irresponsible, unjust action would cause an added approximate $13 million deficit to our county, and many of the already struggling businesses would be forced to close. Number two, it would raise the growing 20% poverty rate, warranting the providers as well as the recipients to receive the county services, which would cause more deficit in the county budget, which explains the neighborhood safety that Christina was referring to. Unemployment rate, which is nearing 20%, already a very devastating number, would soar, causing more deficit in our county. We've already received hundreds of business support signatures, which we've tried to make apparent to you. We will continue to collect these signatures until you uphold your oath and you protect all the people in this county without prejudice. It takes a very strong, caring person to do the job of an IHSS provider. Where is our honor plaque that we rightly deserve?
Following the dean will be Julie Valenzuela.
I've never spoken in front of you guys before, but I have been in the system since 92, I believe. And
Betty, could you move this a little closer in the back of the hair?
like I said, I'm nervous. But I have been in your system, and my caretaker before me,